Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and as promised we are starting some new content. Basically old electronic stator plate, that's the wiring from it starting to look a bit, nothing wrong with the internal cables. I did nick the yellow for the green project that I've just done because you need two yellows and I didn't have a yellow, but basically you can buy these looms already made up from most scooter shops. 350 or whatever. It's not worth buying the cables and doing them yourself for that. The only thing you got to do is obviously solder them on. So what I did was, and the easiest way for you to follow is, if you look, I cut and left the colours on. So we know the yellow needs to go there, the white needs to go there, the green goes on there. The other green from the K2 pickup, which this one's a brand new one, if I can show you the old one, I don't know what had happened there. It looked like it had got caught. Don't look too good, does it? The pin that should be locating that, and it does look like it's been rubbing on, not on this flywheel by the way, I might hasten to add, which is in good nick. It's got no scores in it, and that one's going on this 200 engine that I'm building. So what I plan on doing today is just show you how to solder up. So we've got the red cable, which is the pickup, that goes on this tag here with no cable on it. And the way that they do it is, if I can get my stripper out, close that down because I don't want all my connections falling out. So I've just got a stripper, basically strip a bit of cable off the end, like so. Yeah, that'll be long enough. What we're trying to do is keep all of these cables the same length, or more or less the same length. That'll do. I just need to make sure that the red is not going to catch. So basically it's a tad long, I'm being totally honest. I'm going to cut that off and strip it down again. I trust you can see what's going on here. So we're going to strip it down again, a bit more than that. Because what they do with this tag here is they wrap it around, so in and around like so, and then solder it on. I don't like doing that normally. If you've been watching any of my soldering that I've done in the past, I like the cables to be tinned. What you're basically doing then is getting your lead solder, and this is lead solder, it's not lead free. Not a lead free solder person, lover to be honest. And what they do then is put it on the cable itself, sweat the cable like so, let that cool off a bit, and then what I'm going to do is do it again, that connector, because that's a recipe for what's known in the industry as a dry joint. What a dry joint is, basically it looks like it's connected but it's not. It breaks down under silly things like vibration, stuff like that. So I'm quite happy that that is now done. So I'll just stick that back in its holder over there, so it's safe. And what we can do is just go and check that rock solid. The other side of the pickup, which is an earth, we need to tag that where the white goes. It can go anywhere really, but you want it out of where the crankshaft rotates. You want it out of the way of that. I would probably go green next, get them out of the way, white through there, and then yellow. We need to desolder these first, so we'll get the cables out of the way and put some heat on that, like so. I think that might be a tagged one down. No, that's come off. Brilliant. Let's get that cable out of the way. And we want this one out. There we go. Make sure the hole's clean. I have got a solder sucker somewhere, but most people won't have that, so right. So what we need to do now is we'll do our green, sorry, next. So I'm going to strip the green down, just root it like so. So leave enough on here so it's not tight. Root that on there. And if we cut that down probably about there, look a bit neater than the Indian version anyway. So there's our end. Just double check that we've got enough, it's out of the way. And again, maybe a smidgen too long. A bit more than that. Fine. And what we're going to do this time is tin that. So we get some solder, melt that into the cable, put a nice blob on there, let that cool off. I want that to go on there actually, but there you go, it's cleaned off. So what we need to do now is just push that through the hole while soldering it, and we'll put a dab of solder on as well. These are, again, these all seem to be jobs where to try and get a good position with the camera is not really good, is it? Because we're going to melt that again from here. Come on. And we need to stick that through the hole like so. That should go over that. I'm going to have to check that actually. Have a quick look at that. Probably need to push that back. There we go. Watch burning your hands. There we go, we're through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a bit of solder on here just to make sure it's sealed. Like so, there we go. And then I'll just trim up the ends of the plastic where the plastic's broke off there. Not happy with that. Excuse me while I do this again. So what I'm doing is just warming up the solder, and we're going to poke our cable through like so, let that bind, and then put a bit of solder on there like so, a bit more, that's it. Let that tack off. That's better. If you can see that now, we've got the cable that goes through. Basically the lighting circuits are all the yellow all the way through. So we've got the power out and we've got the other end as ground, and when we do a DC conversion we pull that ground off, that one there, and put another yellow on the end of that, and that's what's called floating the earth. So what you're getting is, on an AC circuit, if you think of a heartbeat monitor in a hospital where it goes boom 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 up and down like that, that would be DC. If it goes boom boom and drops and then comes up or down, it's basically a circle, if you can picture it as a circle. So it goes up and then it goes down, best way I can describe it. So you've got two peaks, you've got a plus peak and a minus peak, and what the DC does is it flips it like that. So you're always getting two peaks instead of one, so you get virtually double the power that you would have done out of one cable. I'm just going to need to chip off this like glue stuff that they put over the cables. You don't actually need that, nothing shorts out, but just need to get that off. So give us a sec while I take that off. I think it's like a plastic, to be honest with you. Well, we get that off, and you can burn it off actually. It's probably quicker to burn it off. Or maybe not, it keeps slipping, so I will carry on using a knife and hack it off and stop trying to lose my solder. We've got two bits to do, basically the yellow and the white. And yellow, as I said before, is your lighting circuits. White is ground. If you can see, I'm just slicing it off bit by bit. Takes a bit of time, a bit of patience as well. Can use a Dremel on it if you want, be careful. You don't want to damage any of the laminates on there, because if it shorts out you won't get the full electricity generated that you need. Put a good dollop of this stuff on, haven't they, to seal it. As I say, you don't really need it, just cleaning that off a bit more. See, when you get close it just starts breaking off. We should be able to desolder that bit if I can prop that up to show you what I'm doing. Maybe not. Nope. Turn it around that way might help a bit more. So where you can see get a pointer, where you can see where the coil leg comes out there, and it basically goes to a circular connector and the cable goes through, and they're both basically soldered together. So I might be able to get that off if it's hot enough. I think it's still playing games with me. This stuff's normally not as sticky as what this one seems to be. Scooters India as opposed to a pattern one. So I'd use a bit more knife on it. I'm just trying to show you that I'm just, see that how that fell off, exposing the solder. So if we can now get onto that solder, I should be able to pull the yellow cable away. So hopefully you can see this start to melt in a bit. If another tip for you as well, if the solder's so old and it won't take the heat, just use a bit of new solder on it, like so. It'll transfer the heat. See how quickly that's taken and pulled out. So right now what we need now is our yellow to be stripped down long enough to go through there. That's going to be long enough there. And once again, sorry for doing some of this off camera. There goes my solder again on the floor. So right, we've got our yellow which is going to go in there. So I'm still probably a little bit too long there. So just chop it down a tad, and then we'll strip that again. A bit more than that what it's giving me. So what I'm going to do is pull the yellow out and push it back in again. Twist them together, and then we'll tin this again. Hope this is viewable. Just let that harden off and just clip the end of it off. So then what we need to do is poke it back through the hole, like so. Pull it out there. Like so. And then what we need to do is feed this yellow when we've warmed up this hole through the hole. I'll put a bend on there again. It is quite awkward to do, to be honest. It's because you've got cables and everything seems to be pushing against you. I mean, you could put this in a vise if you wanted to. So we're sweating the hole again. There we go. And our cable should push through. There we go. It's fighting me again. Right, I'm quite happy with that. Oh, it's popped out because it's still molten. Let's get a bit of solder on here. And we'll stick it on that hole again. Get that through the hole. There we go. And what I'm going to do is just put a bit more solder on. There we go. Just let that harden off. And we can do the white and this green, which is earth as well. So I'll make that bend nice. Pull that yellow. And the green. And then what we've got is the white, which I'm going to cut about there. Strip that down. Straighten that up first. What we're going to do is tin that one now. I'm going to clean that solder off the soldering iron in a minute, because if you got it contaminated then the solder won't take. So I'll just get a knife and just clean it off, knife blade, like so. And we know this yellow one should already be tinned, but we'll do it again. Sorry, green one, where I'm getting my yellows from, I don't know. There we go. Right, so that's tinned as well. I'll get rid of that bit of solder. And then what we need to do is get our white around I'm doing it again with the solder. I'm trying to do is get the white onto that earth tag that's there, like so. So we can cut that down a tad, that's fine. And that will go on that earth tag along with the green. This is where it becomes a bit fiddly, because you have to, the green being slightly long, in fact I'm going to cut that green down and make it smaller. Set. Strip it with the pliers. Set. And then we'll just have to re-tin that one. Not easy to get the strippers into that cable, but there is enough there. I'm just going to put a bit of solder on there, tin it again. So we've got both our earths will be tinned. Like so. There you go. Cleaner connection, better connection. Right, so what we need to do now is that earth tag that's there, we need to get that one onto it, like so. We can dress the cable afterwards and that cable onto it, and hold them both on that earth terminal while getting some of that solder on. This is where you get warm fingers very, very quickly. So we're going to put some on here, nice blob on there. Brilliant, first time. Right, so if we now look at our connections, we've got a yellow on, which is our lighting coils, as I explained earlier. I lost my stick. Screwdriver, I'd use this bit here, this screwdriver. So we've got our plus side coming out of here, and that's our ground for our lights. So they're your 4 lighting circuits. This is the ignition coil. So you've got your power, you've got your trigger, and you've got your earth, red, green and white, which matches the Italian flag for some reason. Whether they picked it that colour, I don't know, but I'm quite happy with that. We can push this earth back down out the way, like so, so it's flat. They're all good connections. And if we wanted to, which I probably will do because I'm a bit like this, I need to find some potting material just to cover over these connections, you know, mimic the factory, which is what I've got here. I'm going to be using, let's have a look, JB Weld. So I'll get a bit of paper, make up the mixture on there. It's 50-50 hardener and compound. We only need a dab, so I can put that back in there and put a dab on here. like so. Of course it would fall off my knee, but never mind. I'll get that out of the way. Down there. So we've got our mixture. You just basically rotate one into the other, it turns a lighter grey as opposed to black and white. When I've mixed it, I'll show you it again. This normally takes about 24 hours to harden, which is not going to be a problem because we're not desoldering anything afterwards. So that's the colour I'm after. Take a blob, put a blob on each of your cables, because that only mimics what the factory was doing originally. If you've got any of that, you don't really need this, like I was saying earlier. And on the yellow, and then we need the red, that covered over. Excuse me while I just make it look neater than it is. If nothing else, I suppose it stops the cables from getting dirty, going off, you know, the copper going off, because it's airtight, isn't it? So it's non-conductive. They used a more grey white version, but ours is doing the same. I've just got to put a bit on the green, and I'm quite happy with that. Right, so what you could do now, I'll just give that screwdriver a whack, because I don't need that stuff on it, and move that out of the way. So that's our stator plate ready to actually mount. As you can see, probably touch in there a bit, just get that out of the way. I put a bit too much on, but it is what it is. And it's a bit scruffier than they do, because they've probably got a, you know, an injector to do it. But we clear this out of the way, it can go straight on the engine now, and it can harden up overnight, and then I can put the flywheel on. Brand new cable lock for the top of it. So if we look on here again, that one's your clamp for the cable, and these three holes are to hold your stator plate on. With the Indian stators, one thing I haven't sort of discussed with people before, with the Indian stators, because let me get the screwdriver again, when you're turning around it goes in that orientation, but there's not a lot of play here. So what you can do, if you haven't got, you know, top dead center, etc., you can roughly set it up there, more or less where I'm marking now. So the screw that holds it in place, the bolt, is not 100% sealed around. I find that if you go here right the way up, that's about 16 degrees, 17 slightly off, and 18 is about there. So between 17 and 18, which is what we're aiming for on this scooter, or this engine I should say. So everyone would be happy with that. What you can do is strobe it and move it afterwards. You do get an eye for this stuff. So we poke that through there, that through there, like so. Put it in position without catching the cables. There you go. And if I get the bolts, what should be in here, these are the parts I took off the engine. So, I'll turn that. And we should have three of these M6s. 1, 2, and can I find the other one? It should be in there. I've got millions of them anyway, but if we just start with 2 just to hold it in place. So we're using the flat spring washers that are original, just new bolts, like so. That's not the bolt I want. I'm just looking for the washer that I need. It should be in here. Sorry, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I'll bring you up a bit. What I was saying was, with the bolts in place, that's more or less in place there. The cable should move without getting trapped up here. Am I being a fool here? I'm looking in the wrong. Number 2 washer. I'm going to stick that in the bottom. This is what I was trying to explain to you with the bolts. I don't know if hopefully the camera caught it. I'm just going to get a socket and a wrench. So we're going to need 10. I'll do it up finger tight at the moment. Like so. What I was trying to say was the K2 pickup, where it's got a line in it, over tighten that, sorry, see it moving, you can't go past there, which is roughly between, I'd say probably 1/2 that's the line you're going for. That groove in between, some people paint that white, some of them come white actually. And some don't. If you just come back a tad from there, I would say about there, that would be between 17 and 18 degrees, which is fine on a standard engine. Like I say, you can do it with your dial gauge, find top dead center, mark your top dead center, your firing point. You've got to bear in mind that the flywheel goes around like this, so your firing point is before top dead center. I would hazard a guess that with that bolted up where it is, this engine will run fine. I would be 100% confident that that would run fine. I'm just looking for the washers that I've misplaced. I can't see them on there. So there's our cable clamp, and we should have a nut on there. Let me just get these bits out of the way and start putting stuff back where we're not using them. Screws we're not using, washers, bits and bobs. We've got loads of the washers. There's another one. Which I've just dropped on the floor. Hopefully I can find that. Yeah, I can see that. Excuse me if my big head's in the way. So the original like washers, I don't know if that's showing it, but they're not flat. You basically tighten the bolt down to make them flat. And there you go, bolt number 3. I'll put that in there. When you build lots and lots of engines, you do get a feel for where, you know, like stuff like that will be. It's you can be 200% precise, or you can be, you know, a guesstimate. As long as the engine runs fine, it doesn't overheat, no problem, is there? Not in my opinion anyway, but what do I know? We're not retarding or advancing the engine ignition on this. It's just a standard 200 lump that's basically going to be running around somebody's engine. So we're just tightening them a bit like such. There we go, that one's tight. Right, and then we'll just do our usual 1/8 of a turn. Again, you get a feel for this stuff, you really do. And we want this clamp to be put there and pull that cable back. And again, I need another washer. Have I found one straight away? Yes, I have. I'll put a washer on there, and we just need one of them. I think that's too big. Should be all right. Yeah. Put the cable back and put that clamp on in place, and hand tighten with the cable back. All that clamp does is stop the flywheel from basically threading the outer sheath and shorting the cables out, which wouldn't be very good. There we go. That would be no good if you're stuck somewhere and it's raining and what have you, which is normally when they break down, if they're going to break down at all. So we've got our flywheel in place. I'm quite happy that I've put so many of these Scooter India stators in. Should probably have made a little, you know, a little gap tool or something, like a spike or something to put in them. There's the washers there that are missing. Can't see them at this angle, that's the problem, but you know, they are what they are. Like I say, deviating again, you put so many of these together, you more or less know where they are, where they go, where they look right, where they don't look right. And you know, running well at the end of the day is what we're after. We're not after you know, it says do this, do that, 100% this. Actually, I've actually found the bolt out of there, so I'm going to change that. My OCD again. I'll just take that one out and put the one that matches the rest of them in. That's a dirty bolt. It's the same bolt, it's just one that was in another box. I'll take that off. I say my covering of the cables is not as neat as the factory, but it's done the job. So we're going to put that back in with the washer back on it. Back in there, you can actually see where the stator's been on. You know what I mean? It's already marked, and our bolt's going right in where that went in anyway. So I don't know. Not bad by eyesight, is it? It'll call all the experts out that tell me I'm doing it wrong on this occasion, but I can guarantee this engine will run perfectly. And it will be a reliable engine as well. There we go, that's tight enough. So flywheel's on. I've got the packaging here to put the cable clamp on. Just 2 screws hold it down. You have a gasket underneath the bottom one, followed by the rubber bung around the cables to seal from dust and water ingress, and then you have the top plate goes down. If nobody's done this before, I will demonstrate. So we'll call that the top one. So there's our gasket that the base basically sits on. So it goes down like that, gasket on underneath, rubber bung in between, cable obviously through the middle, and then you clamp that down with the washers on the screws like so. Yep. So 1, 2. Now these can be screws, they can be nuts, bolts, whatever you want. Screws are easier obviously because you just use a screwdriver to screw them in, but equally so 7mm head bolts, just, you know, do them with a screwdriver attachment, a 7mm on that. So I won't show me doing that, but I'm going to put the gasket on first, and what happens is, what I should have probably explained as well, what you want is the bigger gap towards the flywheel, because what you want to do is you want to keep the cables back that way away from the flywheel as it rotates. You don't want the cable being stuck in the middle and just skimming off the if I find the flywheel, which I had 2 seconds ago. What was done with the flywheel? I've literally had the flywheel in my hand 2 minutes ago. It's fallen down. So what you don't want is these edges here, and more so the edges of the magnets catching the cable. There is a slight gap, there's a running gap of probably that sort of gap distance between the cable and the bolts that are bolted there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this on. So that goes on first with the, as I was saying to you, the big part facing this side. The base bit going on next, obviously through the cable. That goes down on the cable to seal it. That goes on top, and then we got our 2 screws to screw down. I'm going to cut away while I do that because it's literally a 2-minute job. Right, so hopefully you can see where my finger is, and that's what I was trying to say about the bigger gap here to pull the cable back. The 2 screws are in tight, job's a good one. So that's ready now for the flywheel, which again I'll do off camera. No, there's no big deal. All you've got is a Woodruff key here that sets up the flywheel, and I'll basically put that together and then I'll cut back in again. Right, just a quick update. I put the flywheel cowling on, flywheel, the dust cap and spring, and I just showed you that before, why you want the cable back. All new stainless nuts and bolts, and I didn't realise these weren't GP brake shoes until I stuck on the spring, and having cleaned them all up, they are original. When I say original, they're LISX TV, so they should have the bigger cam on here. so I'm going to have to get a set of brake shoes. That's the hub that's going on there, and then we're going to have one clean engine when we clean it down, ready for show and go. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.